analysis. We're happy to be joined from London by Dr. Marcos Papadopoulos, expert in international relations and a specialist in the Middle Eastern affairs. Welcome, Dr. Marcos. What do these statements of the spokesperson of the White House mean while Donald Trump is talking for many times and saying that Iran is ready to get into negotiations and it can provide concessions, unlike or on the contrary to what we are listening by the Iranian leaders? Why is this contradiction in your point of view?
There is a contradiction because America has walked into a quagmire, and it is a very deep quagmire. The Trump administration took America to war with Iran without any clear objective and without any clear military strategy. The hope of the Americans was that within a few days of America and Israel bombing Iran, the Iranian government would submit, or the Iranian government would collapse, or the Iranian government would be overthrown. That clearly has not happened, and it demonstrates that the Americans emphatically underestimated not just Iranian military resolve, but also the resolve of the Iranian people, to rally together, to unite against foreign aggression. So now, after 4 weeks of the war, the Americans are in a very, very serious situation because there seems no end to the war. And whilst Pakistan has relayed messages from Washington to Tehran, the Iranians have rejected what the Americans have proposed. And it also shows that the Iranians have the upper hand in this war. After all, for Iran to emerge victorious in this war, Iran simply has to survive. And America is not going to launch a ground invasion of Iran. That simply will not happen. The Americans have spoken about capturing some Iranian islands in the Persian Gulf. But if they attempt to do that, then thousands of missiles will rain down on American Marines or American paratroopers attempting to take those islands. And if indeed they land on those islands, missiles will still rain down on them. And the Iranian army, which is positioned in those islands, will fight to the death. Now we hear Trump saying that he may be prepared to abandon the Strait of Hormuz. For weeks, he was saying that the American Navy will reopen the Strait of Hormuz. It goes to show that Iran's trump card, if I can use that expression, is its control of the Strait of Hormuz.
So let me go to the point where the spokeswoman of the White House, Caroline Leavitt, talked about, where she said that the United States of America is going to hold Iran accountable for some things that it did agree. They both did agree on, and Iran didn't honor this agreement. What does this mean in the time that Iran is denying that there has been any kind of agreement on anything with the United States?
Well, I can see why the Iranian government would deny that it has spoken to the American government. After all, the American government is responsible for civilian deaths in Iran as a result of the war, including over 150 Iranian schoolgirls slaughtered in Minab. The American government is also responsible for the attacks on civilian infrastructure, which of course is vital to the existence of the Iranian people. So the Iranian people do not wish to hear that their government is talking to the Americans. And I strongly suspect that whilst Pakistan is being used as an intermediary by the Iranians, I do not believe that the Iranians are talking directly with the Americans. The Iranians understand that not one word which emanates from Washington can be trusted. The Iranians spoke with the Americans for months and months and months. And what happened? The Americans reneged on their agreements and they went to war with Iran. And America is fighting Israel's war. This is not a war for America. This is Israel's war. And the Trump administration is utterly beholden to Israel. So, yes, I can see why the Iranian government will not talk directly with the Americans. As for the spokeswoman of the White House, well, she is a mere mouthpiece for Trump. She says what she's told to say. But anyone with even with a few brain cells can see that the American government on a daily basis is lying, that the American government is desperate, that the American government is in a very deep quagmire and is struggling to remove itself from this very deep quagmire.
Do you think that it's possible that these current challenges can be overcome if both parties agree or reach an agreement, meaning that the idea of lack of trust in the Americans about that deal, that Israeli intervention, in addition to reaching common ground? So do you think that these things can be overcome? We can get over this and reach something?
Well, theoretically, anything is possible. In reality, however, I don't see how this war will end quickly. And the main reason for that is this. Trump and senior members in his administration are controlled by the Israelis. And the Israelis are using America to attack Iran. And because Trump and others in his administration are in the pockets of the Israelis, that is why I struggle to see how this war can come to an end. However, there are midterm elections in America this autumn, and the way it looks, the Democrats will take control of both houses on Capitol Hill. They will control Congress, and as a result, the wings of the Trump administration will become clipped. And that is a way the war could end. But that is not until this autumn. So I suspect that the war will continue. And as I said, the Americans can attempt to enter the Strait of Hormuz. They can attempt to use a few thousand Marines and paratroopers to capture Iranian islands. If they do that, there will be bloodshed and there will be American blood running throughout the Persian Gulf.
So what can possibly end this crisis, doctor? So if ending the idea or the thing about the Strait of Hormuz not going to end it, if the economic ramifications aren't going to be an enough motive to end it. Egyptian president even talked yesterday about this crisis and its ramifications on the region and how necessary it is to maybe put an end to this crisis in order to avoid even more future regional and world crises. What do you think?
Well, yes, there is an energy crisis. And this energy crisis has the potential to become so serious that every country in the world will be terribly affected by it. Will Trump persist even amidst a terrible energy crisis? I strongly suspect he will, because he's in the pockets of the Israelis. However, if key people surrounding him resign, and if people refuse to replace those people who resign, then the Trump administration could collapse. It is not inconceivable that Trump may not last as president until the midterm elections this autumn. As I say, I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying it is conceivable. So that is one way that America's participation in the war will end. If America ends its war against Iran, how can Israel continue? Because Israel cannot fight Iran on its own. The Israeli economy is struggling. The Israeli military is fighting on two fronts. The Israeli military is fighting against Iran and simultaneously fighting in Lebanon. The Israelis, after all, have invaded Lebanon. So Israel cannot fight a war on two fronts simultaneously. So all focus is on America. It is down to the American people to put such pressure on the Trump administration that as a result, effectively, it collapses under the weight of the pressure. Again, it is down to the American people.
Okay, given all of this, and you mentioned Israeli goals and these attacks, and these fronts. So do you think that Israel can stand just watching, just as a watcher, if there are horizons to reach an agreement, especially that during the past days when there was the talking about the possibility of agreements, some things were announced, others were not announced. We were following Israeli military unprecedented escalation inside Iran. So what do you think is going to happen, maybe to hinder the negotiations?
Well, of course, the Israelis could, for example, fabricate a false fake incident, a red flag, so to speak, as a way of leaving the Trump administration and others with little choice but to continue the war. After all, the Israeli leadership is a very devious one, and the Israeli leadership has America where it wants it, and the Israeli leadership will not allow America to leave this war easily. As I said, the Americans, or the Trump administration, is in the pockets of the Israelis, and that must be seen partly in the context of the Epstein files. I have no doubt whatsoever that the Israelis are using the Epstein files as a blackmailing technique against senior American leaders, namely, if they do not continue the war against Iran, then details, names in the Epstein files will be made public. That is why I say I struggle to see how this war can end quickly, only if the Democrats take control of Congress this autumn. But then the Democrats are just as murderous and just as pro-war as the Republicans are. So that is why there is no good political party in America. The Democrats and the Republicans are both pro-war. They are both pro-Israeli. That is why the American people need to replicate 1776 again and bring about a revolution in America.